Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ana Jovic, and I come from Serbia. I'm an English teacher and a researcher, and today I will talk about non-native English teachers and if their accents and identities should hold them back from teaching English. So first, let's talk about identity. Let's explore the notion of identity. What is identity? Identity is something that makes individuals unique and it distinguishes them from other individuals. It also shapes how individuals perceive themselves and also how others perceive individuals. It's multifaceted and it encompasses internal and external factors. Now, let's say several words about internal factors. They are determined by individuals themselves. They include personality traits, values and beliefs, self-esteem, religion and spirituality, and emotional intelligence. External factors include elements that are outside of an individual's control, and they are family background, culture influence, peer groups, media and technology, education, social networks, and historical context. So the environment and social cultures and structures and interaction with others shape external factors. External and internal factors work together to shape the complexity and fluidity of identity throughout an individual's life. While external influence can be powerful, individuals also have agency in navigating and negotiating their identities within social context. So, identity is made of external and external factors. Now, let's explore the notion of a language teacher's identity. It shapes how teachers perceive themselves and their role in the teaching and learning process. It's a complex construct encompassing personal, professional, and contextual factors. Personal factors in a language teacher's identity encompass characteristics, experiences, and beliefs unique to an individual teacher. And they also influence how teachers approach language teaching, how they interact with students, and how they shape the learning environment. They include linguistic, cultural, and educational background, teaching philosophy, professional development, interests, and passion. Professional factors encompass aspects of teachers' professional training, experiences, and ongoing development that shape their role as educators. These professional factors contribute to teachers' expertise, teaching philosophy, and effectiveness in classrooms. Professional factors include, yes, expertise, effectiveness, and teaching philosophy are shaped by these professional factors, and professional factors include teaching experience, pedagogical knowledge, professional networks, continuing professional development, ethical standards, and recognition and feedback that teachers receive. And in the end, we have contextual factors that shape a language teacher's identity. They refer to external circumstances that influence how teachers perceive themselves as educators. They encompass the broader social, broader cultural, institutional, and organizational context in which language teaching takes place. So some contextual factors are social context, cultural context, institutional context, policy legislation, parental involvement, intercultural communication. So as you can see, identity itself and a language teacher's identity are very complex structures, and they encompass so many things, and they are really multifaceted. So we would need a lot of time if we wanted to talk about all details and all aspects of teacher's identity. But today, I would love to focus on one external factor of identity and a personal, which is at the same time a personal factor of teachers' identity, and that is linguistic and cultural background. So, why is linguistic and cultural background necessary? It's part of who we are and something we generally have no trouble embracing. We are generally proud of our cultural and linguistic backgrounds, origins, and heritage. But we sometimes perceive our oral linguistic background and our cultural background as an obstacle in classrooms when we speak and teach English. We are ashamed of our accent and we regret not sounding like a native speaker well enough. So, where does this shame come from? To explain the origin of our shame, of our accents and identity and discomfort we feel when we speak English, we need to address a pervasive and dominant language ideology in ELT, and it's native speakerism. Native speakerism has been present in ELT for decades now. To explain what it is, I would love to use Adrian Holiday's definition of native speakerism. He said that native speakerism is a neo-racist ideology that assumes that the ideal of the English language and the ideal of the English language teaching methodology come from the American and British cultures. Therefore, the best representatives of these Western cultures and methodology and language is a native speaker. So native speakerism perpetuates a false belief that only a native speaker can be a foreign language teacher because they speak proper English fluently with proper accent. They know phrasal verbs, idioms, colloquial language, colloquial phrases, and they're native to American and British cultures, and they know these cultures the best. So what does it mean for a non-native speaker? Well, because of all these arguments why a native speaker should be glorified, this glorification goes to such an extent that native speakers without teaching qualifications get teaching jobs sooner than a qualified native teacher. Some native teachers take advantage of their native speaker status and use it as a privilege and a unique selling point in the market. The employers also believe that a native teacher is their unique offer, so they often use the phrase native speaker in their advertisements and marketing campaigns. So students and parents see these advertisements and they look up to these adverts, believing that the school promotes what is worth buying. So sounding like a native speaker has become a goal for both students and teachers. So teachers feel that if they have a native accent or native-like accent or near native accent, that it can guarantee their better position in the market. And students believe that a native speaker teacher can guarantee success in their learning English, so they choose a native teacher over non-native teachers, and they are ready to pay more. Because all of these non-native teachers experience lots of negative effects, and these are the most frequently reported negative effects that non-native teachers experience. So they have low wages, they are paid less, they have fewer chances for employment. They have little chance for promotion because when they get hired, they are rarely trusted with more responsible roles. They feel undervalued because their classes are observed more often than the classes of their native peers. And 40% of teachers, non-native English teachers, reported that they also felt low professional confidence, which spread to their self-esteem, and 20% of them reported low self-esteem. So from this, we can actually make a conclusion that native speakerism, this language ideology, is pretty discriminatory because it isolates and puts non-native teachers on the margin. Now, do native teachers really have an advantage over non-native teachers? Peter Meješ, a Hungarian linguist, wrote the book The Non-Native Teacher, and in the book He discusses the characteristics of non-native teachers and he compares them to native speaker teachers. As you can see here, non-native teachers speak fluently, they know slang, phrasal verbs, and idioms, they know the culture, and they have more confidence. But non-native teachers can also achieve all of these if they put effort and invest in their professional development, which includes not only improving pedagogical, methodological skills, but also developing language proficiency. On the other hand, non-native teachers have some unique advantages that come from their experience of learning a language. So they are good role models. They know learning strategies, they can predict students' struggles, they have more empathy, and they know their students' language well. So from this perspective, non-native teachers are great support for their students. And I forgot to mention that if we want to compare the advantages of native teachers with advantages of non-native teachers, that would be impossible because both sets of teachers can bring something unique to the classroom. So none of them has an advantage over the other. Jennifer Jenkins is a retired professor of global Englishes at the University of Southampton. And I'm mentioning her because I would love to use one of her researches to go back to the topic of identity. So she did a research once by interviewing non-native teachers. And one of her questions was, if you could wake up tomorrow morning with a new accent, what accent would it be? And all teachers said native accent, so one of native accents. And later in her interview, this question came up. So would you like to keep your accent or change it? And surprisingly, everybody said that they would love to keep their accent. So these contradictory answers showed a tremendous ambivalence among non-native teachers. On one hand, they would love to speak like a native, and on the other hand, they would love to keep their accent because they're proud of their cultural and linguistic background. So how come non-native teachers have these contradictory attitudes? Deep inside, teachers feel a sense of pride of who they are, which is a healthy attitude toward one's origin and identity. However, the discriminatory requirements in the ELT market and the dominant narrative of native speakerism made non-native speakers ashamed of how they sounded. So sounding like a native speaker has become a goal for both students and teachers, but do we really need to sound like a native speaker? And if we do, what native speaker will we sound like? The American native speaker or the British native speaker? And if we choose a British native speaker, then what accent will we choose? Even native speakers sometimes don't understand each other well, depending on what variant they speak. So how do we expect to magically understand everyone and be understood by everyone when there is a myriad of native varieties? So no, we should not sound alike a native speaker. That's why cross for all options. So what we can do is embrace our identity fully, which means that we also embrace our accents. Accents are not impediments to effective communication, but wrong pronunciation is. What we should aim at is correct pronunciation that ensures clarity and intelligibility. Intelligible speech is understandable and it doesn't depend on teachers' nativeness. For example, we can say this word in several ways, and these ways can still be understandable. We can say it in the British way, car, or the American way, car. However, we can also say it in a non-native way. For example, car with a rolling r, and everyone will understand the word. So we should aim to sound intelligible and to teach students to be understood. We should encourage them to embrace their identity and their accents because there is no need to sound like a native. there are at least 3 times more non-native speakers than native speakers, and there is a higher chance that our students will communicate with other non-native English speakers than native speakers. That's why we talk about world Englishes and global Englishes, and that should be the aim of our classes and our teaching, not native English variants. Instead of pursuing a native